Where's the notebook, Kevin? Gotta have the notebook. If you get too drunk, you gotta use a notebook. Notebook keep you on track.
That's a little bonus footage. And an insight into how drunk I am. So I'm gonna have to leave that in there. Fuck, welcome to Drinks with Ron. We're officially in the drunk territory, so let's get crazy, huh? Here's some French vanilla creamer. That sounds pretty delicious, huh? We'll put that in a porter glass. And then I'm gonna pour a tall sprig of get the fuck out stout. Oh yeah, look at there. High pour, carbonation, a little cream. Looks delicious. Probably not the best idea after you've had as many fake black and tans as I've had today, which is somewhere in the half dozen range. Okay, that's okay. I'm not gonna deny it. Which there's no denying it. But yeah, we're getting some new. We're doing a little reboot. So I want to add some features or do some stuff for the show. I should be like all Mr. Rogersy, like bar is open. Oh, there we go. Bar's open now. Welcome to Drinks with Ron. I was those everything before the open sign got flipped was practice drinks. Okay, but let me pick up where I left off. See, I've always said I want to have a series. I should have a TV series, a Netflix streaming. I can get you 10 to 12 seasons of original material. And all just random shit. Like, I'm on like my 6th episode of just living in this one house in La Crosse. So that is 1 calendar year. I've got all these insane stories because my memory is crazy. As my buddy pointed out, he's like, dude, your memory is stupid good. And I said, yeah, but once I say it, you remember all the things, right? He's like, yeah, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, that happened. And that's, I've had people do that to me, which is amazing. They mention something and all of a sudden it just like unlocks these doors and it's like, oh yeah, and this guy was there and that guy was there and we were drinking Meisterbrow. But let me digress. I've got some more stories. One of the lessons, we're learning lessons. We're going to jump in the Wayback Machine and learn from my mistakes and my triumphs. But one of the lessons I was teaching you in the last episode is that you can live vicariously through people doing drugs. I said Hunter S. Thompson gotten all fucking wasted and writing all these things is great. But, you know, if he would have just gotten hammered and had a sober buddy to document everything, that would have been great too. So, I ain't telling you what to do or what not to do, but what I'm saying is you can learn a whole lot of drug lessons and have a lot of drug fun without doing any drugs. Of course, not as much as shoveling down a fistful of Jerry Garcia acid. You won't learn as much as doing that. But there's a risk-reward, a cost-benefit analysis, whatever it's called. I don't know. But I'm already gonna be running on too long. So let me bring you back to choose your own lesson. We're gonna keep doing that bit because the bar's open. I told you a few episodes back about piss-soaked revenge. The neighbor asked permission to park on the other side of our garage, which we weren't able to give because it costed us money. We told him to ask our landlord. He said, never mind. Then he did it anyway. Long story short, I may have gotten hammered and he did it one time too many and in a driving rainstorm. I may or may not have just totally drenched his motorcycle in urine. Maybe. Could have happened. I'm petty. I admit it. Don't fuck with me. I mean, you're parking in my yard here, buddy. After I told you, don't get me in trouble. So don't get me in trouble. But another thing, this was an alley. As I've mentioned, Mr. D's Donuts was on the other side of the alley. But it ran straight down and down in the corner. We're in a college neighborhood. We were only a couple blocks from campus here. So you'd have these houses where the alley was. They were right fucking there. And there's nowhere to park. We were fortunate. We had garage and parking spot. And if my roommate of the bomb squad would have ever had a car, we could have just pulled up, parked a third one in the yard. So parking was valuable, is what I'm saying to you. So there was a car down there at the end of the alley. They would always pull in and park in the yard. But there wasn't a yard enough. They would literally be blocking a sidewalk and half of the alley because these houses, there was a sidewalk and then like a retaining wall where the house was. So he's sideways over the sidewalk and the curb and the retaining wall and blocking half of the alley. So every time we would pull in, it would be this game of trying not to clip this asshole off. So after doing it enough, Mule Rider decided one day he'd hit the brakes, power button on the window, it goes down, and I look at him, I'm like, what are we doing? Spit on that car. Yes, sir. So I hawked up a good one and we laid it on the car. And I was like, you know what, you're right, they shouldn't be parking there. Fuck them. That's fair enough. So that became an ongoing thing. If you went by and they were parked like an asshole, and you had a person in the reach and you were obligated to spit on the car. I remember my mom came up. My mom, my little brother, they brought the little mop top dog, which looks a lot like my little buddy, Admiral Jansen, and friend of the family, Willie. Let's call him Willie. They came up, it was fucking freezing cold, like 10, 20 below. And I told you this place with the fireplace, this house was over 100 years old 20 years ago, and freezing fucking cold. There was apparently ducks on the Mississippi on the way up, and one of them said, oh, Jesus, there's ducks out there. Too fucking cold for ducks. So that's been a running joke for 20 years. Too fucking cold for ducks. So if it's so cold you don't want to even expose your flesh to it, it's too fucking cold for ducks. Anyway, they came up, trying to show them a good time in my freezing apartment. Sure, we went out and did something, but as we came back, the car was parked there. So I told my mom, who was driving, it's like, stop the car. So she stopped right there. I rolled the window down and spit on it. No, I was driving. It was the other way around. So I stopped. She's like, what? Spit on that car. So she dies laughing. I have to explain the whole story. No, this guy parks like an asshole. We hack one on the car. So I'll let you choose your lesson. Your lesson is either you shouldn't be a petty twat, or don't park like an asshole. Those are the two you get to pick from. So I'm gonna keep it at a 2-story episode. And I'm gonna wind it up with a long one. I told you about my buddies Sparky and Bernie. Yeah, they were a good time. I lived vicariously through them. Well, one of them, who is it? Was it Bernie? Bernie was on probation for the devil's lettuce. And he was clearing probation. So he had this vision of having a big party. But like I told you previously with the Oktoberfest, I had another buddy of mine from my hometown come to me and say, hey, I want to throw a party. And I said, great, I'll be at your party. And he said, no, but I want to throw my party at your house because you've got all this room. And I said, okay. Well, Bernie wanted to have himself a getting off of probation party called Freedomfest. And the caveat to Freedomfest was not only was it going to be an invite-only event with a sign-in log and the whole deal, but there'd be an entry fee. Everyone who came to Freedomfest had to bring one pre-rolled joint. Now, if you do the math on this, and you invite 10, 15, 20 people to Freedom Fest, and everybody brings one pre-rolled marijuana cigarette, well, imagine how many hours you could go back to back to back to back to back to back to back, lighting one big fat doobie off of the last. Well, even with 20 or something attendance, you can go a long time. So the vision was, starting at 4:20 p.m., Bernie was going to ignite Freedom Fest, and I still have a party favor. It's not an invite. I don't know if there was actual invites that I remember, but there was some big party. I found one in a box, and oh my, this was quite an event. And like I said, happy to use my giant quarters for such an event. But my buddy Bobo, God, I love these assumed names. They're so great. So my buddy Bobo comes down from up north. And I don't think that Bobo was much of a smoker. Because, and thank God, my memory is as crazy as it is. But I remember him coming down, going up to Bernie, and saying, "Hey man, it's a little old and a little dry, but I brought you this joint." What a sentiment. What a sentiment right there. Sentiment. I guess I got a sediment. It's not fucking gravel, dirt that filtered down and left on the... No. Anyway, let me digress. So Freedom Fest is supposed to go to midnight. It's supposed to be an 8-hour non-stop smoking adventure with a soundtrack that was laid out to cover the exact amount of time, disc after disc, leading right up until midnight. The problem is, food wasn't really planned for this event. I'm not a party guy. I tell you can use my living room, which was huge. My living room was fucking 10, 12-foot ceilings, huge fireplace. Like I said, you could get 20-something people in that living room in a giant circle. Not an issue. So I was more than happy to lend my quarters, but I'm not a party planner. So there's no food. There's no nothing. I think there might have been beer. I don't remember. I don't know how anyone could have drank. But my buddy Bobo, who at this time was a committed, I won't say vegan, he was a vegetarian. He wasn't full vegan, but he was watching certain other aspects. He's dying for food. Like when he came down and we knew he was coming and we were going to party like just us, I would always have like a vegetarian, I'd have a cheese pizza, always something that was okay for Bobo. But anyway, I didn't, like I said, I wasn't prepped for this. This wasn't my deal. So he went to a Taco Bell that was 2 blocks over, the West Avenue, I believe, right from my place. So he goes over, oh Jesus, this must have been at like 9, 10 o'clock. Well, I go out to the back porch, so there must have been beers. Jesus, was I drinking? Because we had a little back porchy area. You'd walk in from the back door, and there was a cement slab, basement to the right, kitchen to the left. This cement slab was like a fucking glorious, beautiful free refrigerator. So I remember just boxes of beers out there. And I went out to get a beer, apparently. Jesus Christ, I must have drank through this. But I went out, and as I opened the door, I go to reach for a beer. The door swings open, slams shut behind, and my buddy Bobo plastered against the wall like this. Breathing heavily, and I went, what's going on? So he proceeds to tell me one of the most glorious stories I've ever heard. Bobo, completely baked from sitting, 5-6 hours at Freedom Fest with just non-stop doobage. Overcome by vast munchies, he proceeded down the street to procure a taco or a burrito, a bean burrito, no meat. See? Beans. That's what I'm telling you. So he gets to Taco Bell, and he's hungry, so he's ordering, but he's conscious of the meat thing. So he's asking questions to the kid, and I do mean kid, behind the counter. And he's, hey, what do you cook this with? What do you do that? And so he settles on the bean burrito, but he says, well, I just want to know, when you fry the beans, your refried beans, are you frying them in meat fat? Like, are you using, like, it's cool that it's beans, but if you're frying it in fat of the animal, I didn't really avoid the animal, did I? So, obviously, this kid doesn't know. So he goes to talk to the manager and ask him, hey, do we fry the beans in beef fat? Well, as they're talking, way over in the back, Bobo is getting paranoid, which is one of the proclivities of the marijuana consumer, is the paranoia. So he is getting paranoid, and what he thinks, he's seeing them have this conversation, and in his head, he sees this kid asking the manager if they fry their beans in beef fat. Hey Bob, this guy wants to know, do we, are we using? And in his head, he hears the manager go, yeah, but just fucking tell this fucking guy we don't, so he shuts up. So the kid comes back and he says, no, we don't. Well, by now Bobo's mad, because in his head, he's heard the manager say, just pacify this fucking hippie and tell him it's good when it's not. So he orders the burrito, and he stands there just fucking fuming. Oh, he's getting red, like angry, ready to pace. The burrito comes, the kid sits it on the tray, Bobo fucking snaps, grabs the burrito, full on Nolan Ryan, fires it across the Taco Bell, splatters against the wall, bean goes everywhere, whoom, out the door. He runs, hightails it 2 blocks back to my house, slams the back door, waiting for the police to be in tow for his 89-cent bean burrito disaster. And I was gonna let you pick your lesson, but I don't think there's a lesson there. I don't think there's anything to be learned. I think it's just a great story about Bobo exploding a bean burrito out of paranoia. It's lovely, and so was Freedomfest, and I may actually be done with Main Street. So Netflix, there you go. I just did like a 6-episode run on 1 year of my life. So if you want to make a series, I can get you a series. But man, I drank a whole bunch of dark beers and creams, and my wife's gonna love me. I'm gonna be a fart machine tonight. So maybe I better start conjuring up the gas. So for Drinks with Ron, I'm Ron, signing off.